everyone. Welcome. We're so happy that you're here. Before we get started, Jared and I just want to give a special blast of love and gratitude to all of our subscribers and supporters, all of you who are watching and clicking and commenting. It really means so much to us. We're so excited that you found us and are sticking with us, and we're excited to go on this journey with you. Please let us know who you are, make comments. We really love to get to know you.
Absolutely. And today we're going to be reacting to a video from Swami Mukundananda on a 3-step process for dealing with negative and difficult thoughts, right? Do you ever have negative or difficult thoughts?
Pretty much all the time.
Constantly. Well, that's just you, because me, I'm always sublime. I'm levitating around the house. I never have negative thoughts. So this video doesn't really relate to me. It's not helpful to me, but maybe it's helpful to you.
My husband is a levitator.
So the truth is, I definitely struggle with negative thoughts, right? If you ever struggle with difficult emotions or anger or frustration or feeling resentful or sad or losing self-confidence, Swami Mukundananda in this video is going to provide a 3-step process that's based not only in Vedic wisdom, but modern Western psychology, and he blends them together beautifully to give us a 3-step process to deal with the difficult thoughts that are causing our challenging emotions and misaligned behaviors. So let's watch what Swami Mukundananda has to say on this.
Let's get started.
Suppose I tell you, please don't think of chocolate chip ice cream placed on a crispy brown cone.
I can hear my wife salivating next to me. I can literally hear her going, I don't know if that showed up on the audio, but
it looks so delicious.
So delicious. Let's pause this
Swami
video
G.
and let's go eat some ice cream and then come back and do the reaction video. Okay.
With caramel on top of it and little almond chips on that. And please don't think of a saucer placed by the side with potato chips and tomato ketchup. And don't bring to your mind the sandwich on the other side with cheese and lettuce. While I'm telling you not to think of these things, what is going to happen? You will naturally be inclined to bring them to your mind. This is the ironic effects theory propounded by Wegener through his famous white bear experiment. Students in a class were told not to think of the white bear. And after 24 hours, they were asked. And they had thought of it often just because it was forbidden. So when we have negative thoughts impinging upon us, what is the way to get rid of them? Try following this 3-step formula. The first, dilution. Distance yourself from the negative thought.
So I just have to stop and pause at this moment and share that what a great blessing it is to have a teacher who gives such practical advice. First of all, saying there's experiments in Western psychology that show that negative thoughts pop in when we're telling ourselves not to think of them. So right there, that's a really key thing, because I don't know how many of you experience this, but I'll tell myself, okay, stop thinking about that. That's not helping you. And I'm sort of shoulding and shaming myself. But the science is telling us, as well as the Vedic wisdom, that's not serving, that's not going to support you in eliminating the thoughts. So if that's not working, what is going to work? And now he's going to lay out, and he tells us it's a 3-step process. And already I have a wave of calm, of anticipation, of a gratitude that there is a way to do this. Whether or not I can implement it is another story, but learning the way is very exciting. So let's get to the first one.
And I have seen you implement it very often.
By not taking it too seriously. Just as if you are walking in the wild and you are accosted by an assailant, you have two options, either to stand up and fight or to run. However, if little children of the neighborhood are heckling you, neither of the two options, fighting with them or running away, will work. The third option is ignore them. When they realize they cannot disturb your peace, they will just give up. Likewise, when negative thoughts trouble you, rather than bringing your attention to bear, oh my God, why did this thought come to my mind? Just watch it and say, my mind is playing mischief. Never mind. I will not accept this thought. This is the first step, distancing ourselves from the negative thought. And then the second.
And I love that. So he's saying, when the negative thought or the angry thought or the self-doubting thought or the envious thought comes in or the stressful thought, don't suppress it. Don't just pretend it's not there. Also, he's saying don't ruminate on it. Don't just continually bask and marinate in it. He's saying, step one, dilute it. Distance yourself from it. So observe it non-judgmentally. Okay, let's see what the second step is.
Second step is substitution. Replace it with a positive thought. If you were troubled with thoughts of anger towards your neighbor, now don't get angry is not very helpful. Observe the angry thought within you and replace it with a loving one. Not necessarily towards the neighbor, towards anyone. So the mind will not remain empty. As we all know, the empty mind is a devil's workshop. Rather than thought suppression, think of thought substitution. And once that is done.
Ooh, so profound. Any feelings or thoughts on that? Instead of thought suppression, thought substitution.
Well, at this moment, I just have to say you are a master at this. I've seen you do this in countless situations that inspire me so much when times are really challenging and the thoughts can get really negative and things are bearing down. You have this ability to adapt and take a substituted position, a belief that substitutes. And it's something I learned first from you, watching you do it, and then when we found Swamiji, realizing there was Vedic wisdom behind something that you were already doing and then started doing with even more frequency and with even more impact after we learned that's the second step. So my thought is thank you for inspiring me, my husband, in what you do. And thank you to Swamiji for this incredible 3-step process. Second step, substitution. So we're walking it through. Now I'm so anticipating the third, even though I know what it is. I can't wait to hear it again.
And take the third step. What is that? Sublimation. Now focus on enhancing and strengthening that positive sentiment of love or gratitude or affection or whatever you had cultivated. Or you can consecrate your thoughts to the divine. Let me read about that to you from my latest book, The Power of Thoughts. You can either sublimate your thoughts or go a step further and consecrate them in the direction of the Supreme. Devotional sentiments are...
Here's a quick sublimation and substitution without using the divine, and then we'll give an example of the divine. Yesterday, our daughter, toddler, Jaya Hanumana, who is an angelic, we call her the baby guru. She helps us grow. She teaches us so much, and she's also very challenging, right? Well, she's going through this phase where she tends to just, if she's wanting to do something and we ask her not to, maybe it's a problem or it's a little bit potentially dangerous, she will just ignore us and then do it even more, and we'll keep asking her, Jaya, do you hear Dada? Do you hear Mama? Can you please not do that? And she'll look at us, and then her kali comes out. She just durga. She just keeps doing it even more. My mind sometimes defaults to frustration based on a thought that she is disobeying us. She's being disrespectful. She's not honoring our authority. That creates the emotion of anger or judgment or frustration. Yesterday, I said, what's a different thought? Let's apply Swamiji. I waited with it. I observed it. Then I tried to substitute. What's the substitute thought? She's not being disrespectful. She's being autonomous. She knows what she wants. She has a fiery personality. She's going to be a leader one day, and she's doing what feels right to her, and she's not going to just comply because those in authority tell her to comply. And I instantaneously, my emotion changed from frustration and judgment to respect and admiration. Now, then we still worked on communicating her to do a different behavior. But my emotion, my thoughts had changed, right? So that's an example of the substitution in a non-divine way. And now Swamiji is going to talk about doing substitution and sublimation in connecting the new thought with the divine, which is an even more powerful practice.
Are exceedingly powerful and can vanquish negative ones like the light vanquishes darkness. Maharishi Patanjali recommends nurturing devotion as a technique for achieving mastery over the mind. He states, Vishayavati va pravrittir utpanna manasa sthiti nibandhini. Sutra 1.35. Translation: steadiness of mind may be maintained by contemplating upon and becoming absorbed in God. This above 3-step formula is an internal practice for vanquishing negative thoughts. It gets aided by external support. And what is that? Associating with positive people. An experiment was conducted in the corporate world where employees were divided into 2 groups, and each group was given the task of discussing how a certain...
I just want to pause right there for a second. What other human being on the planet in one sentence cites Patanjali's Yoga Darshan or Yoga Sutras, and the very next sentence cites a modern corporate study on workplace well-being?
Swamiji!
Amazing.
certain fixed company bonus was to be divided amongst all the employees. Unknown to them, in the first group, there was a plant, a person who was given the task of repeatedly injecting negative inputs. And in the other group was a plant who was injecting positivity, hope, and optimism. At the end of the discussion, it was discovered that the first group was dissatisfied, frustrated, and unhappy, while the second group was positive and hopeful. So, negativity is infectious. Likewise, positivity is also infectious. That is why the Ramayana talks about the importance of satsang, associating with holy personalities. Binu satsanga vivekan hoi, Ram kripa binu sulabhan soi. If you participate in satsang, holy congregations, it will greatly assist in making your own mind positive, sacred, and holy. And beyond this, we need to learn how to discipline our thoughts, which will be discussed further in this series on the power
just have to pause here. Sorry, my emotions are so intense. We have so many blessings, and we feel so grateful for those blessings. But none is more profound than the opportunity to have darshan and sit with Swami Mukundananda. And when he talks about the one way to help inject positivity in our lives is satsang. I know how lost and unmoored and lonely it is without the presence of a holy personality in my life, because that existed for me.
Mm-hmm.
And now, with the presence of Swamiji in our lives, and any saint that you can come across, but there are so few in the world that are true saints. And Swamiji is, if you ever have the chance to see him in person, he's a true saint. And it's such a blessing to know him in this small way. And I feel so unworthy to be his devotee, but I'm so grateful.
Thank you, beautiful, for sharing that. This book, how would you describe it?
Okay, so I'll just have to say a minute on the book. If you enjoyed this clip on the power of thoughts and this 3-part way of helping to eliminate negative thoughts, please do pick up his book on Amazon. It's super reasonably priced. The Power of Thoughts, Swami Mukundananda. I'm on my 3rd read of it. Book nerd. It's so good. And this is what I'll say about the power of thoughts. This is from page 40, and it just gives you a little flavor of how magic it is. To further, this is before he gets into the 3-part. The 3-part way of handling negative thoughts comes later in the book, and he expounds upon it, obviously even more than in the clip, because that's what you can do in a book. So if this interests you, do pick it up on Amazon. So from page 40, why do negative thoughts arise, right? What is it that creates faulty thinking? And he says, here are some ideas what creates faulty thinking. Sometimes incorrect beliefs are the cause. Other times, faulty thinking results from erroneous ways of looking at the world, while at other times it happens because of incomplete knowledge. Okay, that's one little paragraph. Just thinking about that's huge. It just really shook my heart. And then he says, so let's take a look at some of the most prevalent negative thought patterns and the fallacious beliefs in which they arise. And now here's the key. So there's several of them. I'm going to have to get the book to read them. But here's on page 43. One way of faulty thinking is filtering out the positives. And I'll just say from this past couple of days, I'm still sick. The last time we recorded a video, I was ill, and then I got hit with another illness. And really doing poorly with the illness. And 2 days ago, I had a complete emotional breakdown that was really profound. And a lot of the times I'm strong, and my beloved husband was so wonderful in carrying the whole family through the weekend as I was down for the count. But I had all these negative thoughts about my experience of the emotional breakdown, and I was filtering out the positives. And right before this video, I turned to Jared and I said, I feel so unworthy to speak on this video because of how I broke down. And he reminded me of the positives, and that I was filtering out the positives. And of course, that's a technique from Swamiji that I really should have put into practice before I had to be reminded, but that's the key. And so I really highly recommend picking up the book if you're interested in managing your negative thoughts. It really serves, and it's really wonderful read. He's such a great writer.
And isn't that what we all do, right? She was focusing only on what she thought was her spiritual failing in the last week, without looking at the 12 or 15 major emotional, mental, spiritual victories, right? And that's what our mind does, the negativity bias. So the last piece I'm going to share about sublimation and consecrating the mind in God. Remember the example you gave about Jaya Hanumana and getting frustrated and then substituting the thought for a thought that is more positive, like, okay, she's not being disrespectful, she's being emotionally autonomous, and emotionally she's engaging in self-leadership. He also gives the example of doing that substitute thought but connecting it to God, right? And he said, in citing Patanjali, the Yoga Sutras, that's where true balance and equanimity of the mind comes from. So the practice we did there yesterday was, the child is disobeying and it's frustrating us. So we said, right now I'm attached to my human child doing what I say. I'm disconnected from the divine. I'm wanting her to comply. So I said, what is it about her not complying with me? I quickly saw it's my attachment to control. If I say something, I want compliance. I want to be able to control my environment, right? Instead I said sharanam, right? Divine surrender. This little being is showing me, giving me an opportunity to both keep her safe, but surrender and have faith in the divine and not be so controlling of everything. She was exposing my ego, my attachment to controlling everything, right? And I started to think of God and Guru in that moment. And all of a sudden, the petty disagreement I was having with her felt very irrelevant. And I could meet her with greater love, equanimity, and compassion. So that's an example of what Swamiji is talking about in the third step, where when you're in the human turmoil and you're having negative thoughts, trying to connect to God, trying to connect to the divine sentiment, as Patanjali explained, and then it can shift our thinking and our emotions. So that is a wrap. We wanted to hit you with that last point. Thank you so much for watching if you made it all the way to the end. And we send you blessings, and we are excited to receive any comments, thoughts, feedback, and we will see you for our next video.
Thank you.